Good morning. It's Joan Jack with Brave Indigenous Conversations. So I'm going to begin my podcast by reading a poem that was written by, I'm just looking for it here. Should have had that pulled up. Okay. This is called Brave Space. Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. Mickey Scott B. Jones. Now, I'm not sure if I'm hoping my sound is working. I'm going to close this. So those of you that are new to my podcast, you know that I'm just learning. And I'm not supposed to talk about all this trouble, but I need somebody to tell me that they can hear me. And Claudette, Chorney, my guest, I've got 3 people watching already. So if you would just comment and let me know that you can hear me, I would really appreciate that. So for those of you, I'm just going to assume the sound is working. The other thing is I'm coming to you live from Tack River Tlingit territory in which is also known as Northwestern British Columbia. And we are, oh, thank you, June. So the sound is good. So we are in territory that's also known as British Columbia. And we are about, I don't know, I always get it wrong. Maybe we're close to Juneau, Alaska. So I'm coming to you through Starlink internet, which is being powered by a generator, a gas generator, because we don't have enough solar power here yet to run everything solar. We're working on that. I'm waiting for my guest, Claudette. Just going to see if she's messaged me. I'm just going to tell her tap the link. I sent, and let's see what happens. So I'm thinking, I'm not sure what the heck I'm going to do if this never, maybe I'll have to send my friend Lynn the link if because I see you're there this morning, Lynn. That's great. I'm just waiting for Claudette to tap the link, and I'll be bringing her on. On my podcast, I don't really introduce people. I let them introduce themselves because that's culturally appropriate for me. I mean, I can say some things about Claudette, but it's better if she speaks for herself. I'm just waiting for her. She was having trouble earlier. I'm just going to tell her waiting now. Okay. So I'm not sure what happened. If I scroll way up, I send it to her again. Okay. And this is what we pay an editor for. They will go in and edit out all this goofiness. Let me just tell you what's going on at the camp here. So you can see below my name there, if you're watching through video, that it says not gonna call. Still not working. I'm not really sure what to do. Okay, hang on. Maybe what I'll do is I will having issues. So bear with me, those of you listening already. Thank you so much for your patience. I've got to go to help. No, geez. Having issues. Okay, now my link is not working and my guest can't join me or join us. Okay, so let me see. Maybe there's another button here. We're searching for buttons again. Okay, comments. I'm glad you can hear me. I just have to get this figured out here. Invite. I'm going to copy. Okay, I'm copying again. So if Claudette can't come on, it won't open. I don't know. Just tap it, sweetheart. Okay, try this one. And then if Claudette can't come on, Lynn, you're on. I'll be texting you a link. Try this one. Okay. All right. Let's see what happens. Oh my God. Now I can't see my StreamYard screen. Oh boy, this is challenging. Oh. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay, what we're going to do, Lynn, is I'm going to send you the link as well. And then if I have the capacity to have 10 guests, so if Claudette figures it out, if it works for her, it's not her problem. If it works for her, then she can just join us and we'll have a 3-year conversation. So I'm going to text you. Oh, what device is she using? Ask. Okay, hang on. What browser are you using, Claudette? The helping guy wants to know. Okay. So I'm going to send you the link anyway, Lynn, and I'm going to text it to you. And then we'll see what happens. There we go. Okay. Texting you the link. Okay. There. I sent it to you. Okay. She can just start chat with us here. Okay. Okay. I'm going to. They want me to start the. Okay. These guys are pretty good. It's StreamYard. They're really good with the support. Amazing. Okay. So I'm just going to give her this link. And they will help you. Okay. Definitely going to need my editor for this one. Okay. So I sent Lynn the link and I have sent Claudette the help link. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Not Gonna Call again. I first moved to Takaraklingat territory it was April 28, 1991 when I drove down the Atlan Road. And there's a point on the Atlan Road where I was moved to tears and I didn't understand what was going on. It's like the middle of nowhere, just like it was gravel back then, a gravel road through the mountains. And I just felt so much emotion and started to weep. And my mom was with me and I looked to see what was happening with her. And she was weeping as well. And so we had an instant attachment to this place at a deep spiritual level, not one we created, just one that happened. And I started working for the TRTFN in their lands and fisheries department after I'd finished law school. And it wasn't long that I was there that I met my husband, Brian Jack. His Tlingit name is Watsit. And I was pregnant with Shirley, my second daughter at the time, and I wasn't showing when I got to Atlan. And I'm just going to answer Claudette here. Hang on, she's messaging me again. Okay. We try another time. Okay, so we'll just try with Claudette another time. Now let's see what Lynn is saying. Okay, 2 minutes, have to download something. Okay, so Lynn will be on, hopefully. So I'll just go back to my story for my editor here. And I wasn't showing at the time. And Brian said he'd heard there was a new woman in town, and she had a baby because Lonnie was 2.5, and my mom was with me. And long story short, this is really distracting because Claudette's texting me now. So sorry, I just got to deal with her. All kinds of people are messaging me and I can't do this. No, it's... I've just got to tell her it's a podcast service. We'll figure it out and come back together again another time. Right now, I've got another guest who's going to come on and we're going to go forward. And I'm talking live on the podcast as I text to you right now. so I have to stop. I just love that there are 6 people here patiently going through this with me. I've had to really face my own. I mean, he's probably going to cut this out, but it is relevant. I've had to face my own insecurities around, ego and am I doing this right and whatever. But yeah, this is a brave Indigenous conversation, and I have to be brave. So Lynn says she's just getting ready. I'll go back to my story. Um, so Brian said he heard there was a new woman in town, and that I didn't say this last time, like that she's kind of pretty, and he wanted to check me out. So as he told me this story, he said Brian used to walk everywhere, or catch a ride if he wanted to ride. He didn't drive. And I thought, as we got to know each other, I was like, why don't you drive? Like, he was 37. I thought maybe he lost his license, drunk driving or whatever. And he said, no, I just never drove. I just walk everywhere. And I'm like, what? Who walks everywhere? Anyway, so he said, when he first told me this story, I was so moved. And he said he got to town and he went into the band office. And he said, I heard you before I saw you. And he said, you were laughing so hard. And he said, I looked down the hall, and he said, you were talking to Uncle Sylvester and your head was thrown back and you were laughing and he was laughing and the sun was hitting you. And I just loved you. So that's like, I don't know, on the romantic scale, that's like a 10 plus. I was just like, oh my God. And then we became friends, over the duration of my pregnancy with Shirley. He looked after me and took care of me. And then after Shirley was born, we shacked up. And that was 30 years ago. Well, we got married the first year in that January of 2000 and let me see, 19. Oh no, I got my sobriety date mixed up in there. Anyways, the first few months that we were together, we were just living together, and then we got married, and we just celebrated our 30-year wedding anniversary on December 12th this past year. So yeah, it's been a really good go. The reason I have this podcast and I bring guests on is because I'm not the kind of person that could just talk and talk and talk and talk like right now, like I just talk. Like, there's lots of things in my head that I could share. Oh, there's Lynn. Thank God. Okay, I'm going to bring her on.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Good morning. So today, episode 6, we have my lifetime friend and sister, Lynn Bright, with us. And Lynn and I met in law school in 89, 88, 88, 87.
1988, I met you and you were just pregnant with Shirley.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. So you were in your last year, and I must have.
Other way around. You were in your last year. I was in my second
There you
year.
go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's how it went.
And so,
And
go
I
ahead.
got to tell you that when I met Joan, when I met you, people said to me, "Don't get to know that Joan girl. She doesn't like white chicks. She'll eat you up and spit you out." And I went, "Oh, I got to meet Joan." And one of the interesting things that happened that year was that Jenny Jack
Yeah.
became president of the Law Students Association,
Yeah.
the organization that the law students operated at at UBC. And then, as luck would have it, Oka happened, and so Jenny went and negotiated with creating a peaceful transition out of Oka. And so everyone who supported her and you had to step up to the plate and behave properly, because there were other people who were not behaving properly, who were going, those people can't run this because, blah, blah, blah. So we did it.
Right
We did
on.
all of the things that year that the Law Students Association put on. We stepped up to the plate and put it all on. You were
Nice.
a big part of that.
Oh, I blocked it out. If you could slide a little bit, I'm not sure if it's your left or right, because
There we go.
oh, there you go. There you go. Perfect. Because those that are watching on video would probably like to see your whole head.
There you go.
So about that time in our life, my memory of it, I don't remember much. I have a funny memory, but I remember that I was Jenny's scrutineer, and in the room as they were doing the count, the guy she was running against, he had assumed he was gonna win, and then when they announced the count, he went yay, but it wasn't his name. I never forgot how hard Jenny and I just couldn't help ourselves to laugh. It was like just so indicative of how, the dominant population just assumes their privilege will be maintained, you know?
And the
It's
entitlement will continue.
yes, and the entitlement will continue.
Yes.
Okay, so how about you introduce yourself, Lynn?
Okay, my name is Lynn Bright. Um, I'm a, a retired bureaucrat that has a law degree. I practiced law for about 15 years, and then I went to work for the government. And in between those two events in my life, Joan brought me up north, and I had to switch doing what I was doing, and she helped me make that transition by introducing me to the land, which helped me to um, remember who I am and learn about being okay with not being a lawyer.
Mm,
It it was an event um, in my life that brought me closer to the land and brought. I'm not indigenous. I'm European, mostly Irish, Scottish, Welsh, English, um, and my parents immigrated to North America a year before I was born here, so I have no had no grounding in anything that even looked like it might be indigenous or First Nations or um, a different culture than the one that I grew up with. And when I got to live up north with Joan and her family, I got to experience what it was like to learn about a connection to the land that has never ever left me.
mm,
Um, and I still think that it has an influence on me today. So what I do now that I'm retired is I work really hard because that's what we do. And I work for a few nonprofits. One of them, of course, is Joan's Friends of the Nakanock Hall that I'm involved with. And I also am involved with a two nonprofits in Southern California that are trying to buy land for the people that live there. And the reason that I do that is because of the connection to the land. I married a fellow, his name is Mike Bright, and he lived in a place called Slab City in southeast um, California in the desert. And it's known as the last free place in America because you can live there for free. So long as you can take care of yourself and behave properly with respect to your neighbors. And there are a lot of misinformation about what Slab City is and what it is not,
mm.
including even though it is known as the last free place in America. I'm going to move my thing a little bit more to see if I can.
There you go. Now it's
There
good.
we go.
A
I just
little
didn't
bit
want
more.
that big light in the back. Anyway,
I know. Well, I have the same problem here because we have a skylight in the cabin, and it looks like the sun and the rays of God are on me. Is how I've reframed that.
uh, so anyway, what the misconception about the last free place in America is that there are no rules or laws, which is absolutely not correct. You need to have some kind of a relationship with other people that are in the area where you live, and so there are rules and there are ways of getting along with each other that are unwritten.
Mm,
And so there are parallels to being connected to the land that provide what those rules are going to be. If you can't figure out how to live in the desert, then you can't live there because you have to take care of your own power, your own water, your own trash, and your own waste. You need to take care of all of those things yourself. And if you can't figure out how to do that
Hmm.
at your own expense, then that's not the place for you.
Mm.
It's not for everyone.
Mm.
Um, so anyway,
Yeah,
that's what I do now.
we can talk more about that for sure. Right now, I was thinking it would be really good. I'd love to hear you share about your experience with our family and with the Nakanakal, and because during that period that you were with us, we've been doing this a long time down
Yes,
here, and you were a big part of that. So I'm sure there's even some funny stories you could share. But I
yes,
want our audience to know, um, like as Indigenous people, we are so open and so like it's
accepting.
yeah, it's funny that people still describe me as like not liking white people. I don't know what that's about. Maybe you could talk about that too. Like I have lots of white friends.
I know. I don't know what it's about other than you don't compromise,
Ah,
okay, right? Are unapologetically you,
uh,
and if that bumps up against somebody else who is thinking that things are going to go down that road, then there's a
funny they take it to race. It's
yes.
interesting you saying that because that power smash happens between all kinds of people.
Oh,
All
I experience constantly that
yeah, yeah. So, but
in doing what I'm doing.
with me as an Indigenous woman, there you're teaching me something, or it's a new idea, a new thought. That where they go with that though is that they label me racist
Yes,
when they can't get their way.
yeah,
Isn't that
yes,
interesting?
yeah,
Hmm.
because you are uncompromising
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
yourself. So, like I said, I went up north. Never been up there before. Went up with my long fingernails to Joan and Brian's wedding when they got married, and um, of course they popped right off. It was in November, and it was like 30 below already. You can't do those kind of things. So I learned a lot really quick, like in 5 minutes. You can't have long fingernails up north. You have to adjust. And then I went home. And then when I came back up to live with Joan, she had 6 children under 6.
Hmm.
And in my experience of that, was that Joan walked her talk. Those are words I learned from you, Joan, was that you knew that there were issues in your community that needed to be addressed, and you were unwilling to let those issues go away without giving yourself and your family the opportunity to address those issues on the ground.
Hmm.
So you not only had the 3 children that you had 3 children from the community that lived with you, and you created a relationship with their families and with you that other people in foster care don't,
Hmm.
like in mainstream foster care, don't usually do. So you had a relationship with each of the children's parents and aunties and uncles that continues
Yeah.
even now. And they are part of your family, and they're part of, um, like, you're their auntie mom. And that was the first time I heard that word, was auntie mom, which I thought, wow, that's a brilliant thing.
I just want to
So
interject and tell you where
you
that
bet.
came from. So, Stephen Johnson, who's my husband's brother's son, was in our care, and so I'm his auntie. And he came. It's funny about what. It'd be nice to talk to a child psychologist or something sometime on here. Like he came to us when he was 2.5, and he had such loyalty to his own parents that he couldn't call me mom. Like he couldn't call me mom. Because Brian and I talked about that. Like some of the kids we've raised, we if they're old enough to make a decision, we talk to them about their relationships in their life and the choices they make, and then they can choose to call me mom and call us mom and dad, or call us auntie and uncle. It's their choice. But if they're like baby or young, then we decided as quote unquote foster parents that every child needs to scream something when they fall down and skin their knee. And usually it's mom or dad. And so even though we knew we had a different biological relationship with these children, we did raise them to call us mom and dad. So Adair calls us mom and dad. Amelia calls us mom and dad. And Stephen was only 2.5, and he wouldn't call me mom. I offered. I said, "You can call me mom if you want." No, he wouldn't. He barely had language. No. And he's the one. He came out of the back rooms one day and he was yelling, "Auntie Mom." So he figured out how to, harmonize that in his mind so that he could rely on me for what he needed in the moment and love me and not be disloyal to his mother. Isn't
Yeah,
that amazing?
that is amazing from a
Yeah.
little guy.
Yeah. That's where
Yeah,
that came from. And he was 2.5. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, go on, continue.
So Joan and Brian decided that year that they were going to go downriver, and I wasn't ready to go downriver. I wasn't ready to walk down. I'm still not, but one day I will. Um, so we agreed that I would be the expediter. So I got the privilege of shopping for all the people and the guests and helping blossom the Nakanock Hall.
Yeah.
And it was such an incredibly powerful experience to be a part of that,
Mm,
and to watch how Brian just took the lead and went, "This is our land. We want to teach people. Don't care what, like, where they're from. We want to teach people about the relationship with the land."
mm,
And you took the lead of, I'm going to teach anybody who wants to come here can learn about living on the river.
mm,
And it's a 4 day walk. So
mhm.
it's what's called a hard walk in terms of when people do walks and trails.
Let me
It's a
just interrupt with another story there.
okay.
The first time I walked was in 1998, and I walked with uh oh, his name's right here. Oh my God. Anyways, he was another lawyer, an environmental lawyer, and his wife was Linda, and Al, it'll come. Anyway, so they are hikers, and I didn't know there were people in the world that like are hikers. It's like there's golfers and whatever. That's the hard thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so he said they go on holidays to hike. So they go to France, they go to Spain, they go wherever, and they look for the trails in those lands, and then they go hiking. And that's how they plan all their holidays. I was like, wow, that's like so out of my wheelhouse. But anyways, they walked with us, and when we got here, and he sprained his ankle at Tin Cup Creek, which is about, we call it Tin Cup Creek, which is about a good day walk out of here. And it was so amazing. Thank God they were hikers, because he slipped, and he's a big man, and he slipped and he fell, and he looked right away to see what the injury was, and he took his boot off, and his wife moved so quickly, and she got this kind of reminds me of like Elizabethan or something, like a thing that goes on your ankle with laces, and then he put it on his foot because his he broke his ankle, so his or sprained so it was starting to swell and it was all blue, and he put that on and he tied it really tight, and then he put his boot back on, and then he walked the last day, and then he stayed here limping around until they went back. But anyways, I said to him, the point of the story was, so this hiking thing you guys do, like on that rating scale, like what they have numbers. And I said, what number is our trail? He said, no, it's not on the scale. It's not on the scale. He said there would never be any trail like this advertised for anyone to come and hike. So it's like extreme hard.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There. Correct me if I'm wrong. Two rivers and a rappel.
Oh, easy. There's
Yeah.
there's more. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like
No bridges. Like you
no.
got to cross two
Yeah.
raging rivers
Yeah.
and then
There's
rappel down a cliff.
well, more than one cliff you're rappelling. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's pretty
And
crazy.
there's nowhere to fly in to get you if you hurt yourself. There,
Well, now
you're going to have to walk somewhere
back
if the
then,
helicopter is
yeah,
going to come and help you. Like you'll
back
have to
then,
stow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back then there wasn't anywhere, but now
Yeah.
they're probably grown over though. But for a few years, when John Ward was the spokesperson at the TRTFN, he was somebody really active on the trail, and he and the nation did make some helicopter pad landings at a couple of places on the trail for safety. But they've probably nobody's done anything, and so it's probably all overgrown again now. But yeah, extremely. But I just want to say that like it was on the trail that I really found God. I really found God on the trail because the humility, the humility that pain, that extreme pain, and um, like people can only help you so much in life. Like on the trail, I suffered. Like I had a hard time on the walk, and Brian would say, take something from your mom, to the kids, and they'd all come and line up for something out of my pack, when I was having a hard time. And I walked it 10 times, so 20, 10 in, 10 out. And so, you can only get so much help in life, but in the end, you've got to walk yourself. And then if it's just me, you know, and I remember hitting the ground and face like literally in the mud, and just even now the feeling comes back, that I was so broken. I was nothing. I was nothing. And yet, in that same moment, I was a part of everything. And my presence completed the whole. And when I felt that, I just thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And I got up and walked, And that experience just repeats itself over and over on the trail because, yeah, like I said, people can only help you so much in life, but in the end, you got to do it yourself. And the best way is to get in contact with your God, I think.
I and I having the privilege of bringing people, to the plane and picking them up from the helicopter and the plane
Mm,
after they have walked down and come back, that is their experience as well.
mm,
And I'm going to go outside of the boundaries that I'm supposed to go outside of and talk about my niece,
okay.
who was a teenager, and at the time that I was up there, she was 14 and 15. Yeah, at the most 15. I think she turned 15 that year. She really struggled. She struggled with her parents. She struggled. She stayed with me for a while. She struggled with me, and only like teenagers can struggle, to find out who she was and what she was, and got mixed up with all sorts of, bad environments. I don't like to call them bad because she learned, right? But risky environments. And
Mm,
so her mom and I said, what can we do? And we talked to Joan, and Joan said, well, let's bring her up here and see what happens. And she so gratefully did that for Tamara. Tamara walked that
right.
that trail all the way down, and she complained the entire time. I want to go home to my mom. I want to go, but she did it.
Yeah.
And she has that in her belly and in her being now. And
Wow.
now she's a grown woman with a child that's 13 or 14 herself, and she's doing really well. She works in the movie industry. She's um, married to a beautiful man, and they have a lovely life. And when she got married, I even said, this is part of who Tamara is, walking down the river. And I want to acknowledge Joan for bringing this
Mm,
to her and being in her life, because it was so important. It was such, I mean, it didn't make everything better the next day,
no,
but she
no.
had that. She had that experience to know that she could do it. She
Mm,
could do anything because she did that walk.
mm.
And she keeps that with her.
Nice.
That's something that stays with her forever.
So beautiful.
It is.
When she was at the camp here with us, we've had lots of, back in the day, we had tons of Tamaras. We had
You
lots of
did.
teenagers. And she was a stomper. You know how some people, when they're mad, they just stomp everywhere. But as I was just telling somebody this yesterday, the land heals us just by being this close to it. in an environment where we do our best to express our humanity in a way that allows others to express their humanity. I mean, that's a really fancy way of saying that I do my best to turn down the Joan to make space for other people to turn up whoever they are. Because, yeah, I was just also saying yesterday that I really believe that our young people are resisting colonization and the oppressed becoming the oppressor by just staying drunk and high. Like they just don't want to have anything to fucking do with any of this bullshit programs and all this savior shit going on and photo ops and all this stuff, and they're just like, no, I'm out of here. So it's a form of resistance. And then when they get down here where we don't drink and drug, I mean, there is some medical marijuana use here that I've had to move on. I don't, I own personal views about that, but in order for me to create space for people, I have to be respectful of their needs. And so that's the only mind altering substance we have here. And no, that's not true. We have nicotine and we have caffeine. So we have caffeine, nicotine, and cannabis, medical marijuana cannabis. So that's it for those who need it. And so I've moved and learned a lot over the years on how to, that the young people, they just need, all my job is to make sure they get two or three good meals a day, a hug if they need it, you know. And like one of my nieces who's here, I said to her, she's helping me and she's in recovery, and I said to her, I have a need to get things done really efficiently as I've aged, because I can't do it all myself anymore. So your role here is so important, and my knees are bad right now, and so I need things done, when I say, and efficiently, and because I can't just do it myself anymore. And so I said, can I be stern with you? And she looked at me and she said, I know you love me. Yes, you can. Actually, that's what I think I need right now. So when she segues from doing, what I've asked her to do into whatever else she, squirrel, get whatever, I say to her, okay, Ma, I'm going to be stern. And she's like, okay, or I'm just stern, but I get her permission. And so that's an example of how we learn to live with each other here in a good way, in a good way. Yeah. Do you remember
Right.
where you were in your thinking? We were
Yes.
talking about Tamara. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. I was talking about Tamara, and then um, the I think it was the following year, or possibly the following year after that. I was up there for 3.5 years, so I think it was the last year that I was up there. I actually had the opportunity to come in, and of course, I couldn't. I was not healthy enough physically to walk in, so I came in on one of the loads with the helicopter, and um, when he came down the river, no, that's not true. I did come the year before in the fixed wing plane,
Yeah. Fixing in the
and
boat. Yeah.
that's right. But it got to come down in the helicopter, and he came down the river. And as he came down the river that time, all of the eagles that were in the area flew in with us, even though it was like really loud and really like all the wind was getting whipped up. The eagles came at the same time, and they flew in with us. It was an amazing moment of
Wow.
like synergy with the nature that is there, even though there was this big machine and and this giant
Gosh.
noise and wind. It was like nature just came to meet us,
Huh.
and then they were there. And that was the year that I got to experience the grizzly bear. And I had seen grizzly bears before. I had seen them on the trail between um, Jake's Corner and Atlin.
Yeah.
There was a little, I want to say little, there was a 3-year-old who was taller than my brother, who's 6.5 feet tall. Um, but a young bear who didn't come up, at least didn't approach the the truck that I was driving at the time. And my experience of the bear was, it took my breath away the first time that I saw it. on that hill. I just called it Rabbit Hill where it came down, and it it came from my left and then just loped in front of me and went, oh yeah, there's a truck. And I just knew instinctively to stop the truck. Henry was with me at that point, and the bear just looked at us and kept going. But I knew that that bear could come over to the truck and just open the top of the truck, and it was a huge Ford F-150, like a can opener, with his paws, and reach in and just gobble us up if it really wanted to. And there was nothing I could do at all about that. So it was just like, okay, let's just watch. There's a very powerful thing go across my path. And when I came downriver, I'm on the riverbank fishing. I love fish. I love fishing. And my favorite fish are the dollies, and the dollies were running right then. So I'm fishing away, and la di da, and I'm all down at the bottom of the
Hill. Yeah.
the hill there with nobody but me in the river and having a great old time. And I look up, and this thing comes up out of the water, and its head has a fish in the mouth, right? And it was so foreign to me that I couldn't register what it was at first. And then finally my eyes focused and I'm like, oh my God, it's like 20 feet away from me. I'm out of here. Drop, like no reeling in the line. Drop the line, run up the hill and yell bear. And then Brian takes over. All the kids come into the house because they're all really well trained. Brian goes, releases the dogs, and the dogs, there's like 5 dogs that chase the bear across the river. And as it went across the river, then we could sort of see it was safe for us to look. So I look over, and here's this bear, and you can see the look on its face. Dog, fish, dog, fish. Now I got a fish. And then climb the vertical part of that, like with 2 more steps, climb the vertical part of the cliff across. I see it when you
Yeah.
do some of your videos, the cliff that it went up, and then it just disappeared like
Yeah.
into the forest. And it was like,
Yeah.
you are not the top of the food chain, Lynn. You are way down the bottom of the food chain. And that experience, the spirit of that experience,
Yeah.
like that's with me all the time.
Oh, that's so
Always, always
fascinating.
so powerful,
Yeah.
so amazing.
And the power of relationship here, I just you just made me think of like a couple of nights ago. So we only have one little dog now, but when we live here year round, we will have 4 or 5 again. But we have Yuddy, and he's like Yuddy the super dog. And
Yes.
so the bear, he keeps the bears in line, and he works all night. And so the dogs sleep all day, and then they work all night. Somehow they intuitively know what their job is, and I don't know. Brian
Well,
won't let them.
Brian teaches them.
Yeah, and he won't let them in any cabins and whatever. I don't know what his process is. I just know he does it. And so 2 nights ago, Yadi was going ape shit, like just crazy, but his bark sounded different. So our process here is when Yadi bark, when the dog barks, if Brian doesn't hear it, which he usually does, but I always hear it, I wake him up and then I say the dog's barking. He's like, yeah, and then we listen for a minute to see where the bark is, like in the yard kind of. Well, it's a yard, but it's not a yard. Like if is he far away already? Is he right close? Like where's the barking coming from? And then through that listening process, Brian gets up, puts his clothes on, gets a flashlight, gets his gun, and then he goes out and he goes and greets the dog and whatever. And so 2 nights ago, and or calls him back. Like sometimes, like especially Yuddy, like he's so tiny, like he's a little wee dog, but he won't give up. Like, and so there's danger for him too. So Brian has to get him back. And so his bark was different a couple of nights ago, and then we both heard it. I mean, I don't think we said that out loud to each other, but it sounded different. So I was like, what the hell? And then Brian went out, and then when he came back, I said, what was it? Because I didn't think it was a bear. And he said it was a porcupine. And so there was a porcupine and then I could hear Brian and Joe talking because Joe's tent is right near the smokehouse where the porcupine was, and they were talking outside. And I felt threatened by that porcupine because you wouldn't want the porcupine to quill Yeti, because if we didn't have Yeti, then one of our safety mechanisms wouldn't be here, you know? Like we'd still be okay, but I was amazed, like in this moment sharing with you, I got present to how everything here has a purpose and everything has a role and everything is important, you know? And so I was talking to Joseph, and Brian was saying to me, I think I'm going to have to kill that porcupine because it's not going to stop coming around, but he'll eat it anyway. And so I said to him, well, okay, but it sure would be nice to keep the quills because, you know, Amelia, our daughter, is beading and she's such an artist. And, you know, her sister Kayla beads. Like there's lots of people who would like the quills. And then the way that you get the quills off the easiest is you throw a towel or something on the, wait, my mic fell over. You throw a towel on the porcupine and then it releases all the quills into the towel and then you club it on the head. And so I said, don't shoot it because I want to keep those quills for some of the women, eh? And so then I was telling Joe that, and he's like, yeah, okay. I said, yeah, because it's more, you got to get closer, you got to get close enough to throw it on. And so that's what we'll probably be doing. But the point of my whole sharing was that I'm just really present to how everything has its role here. And I wouldn't want to, I would still be here without Yeti, but it would be harder to be here without Yeti. And so we all play our part, eh? Anyway.
Part of a community.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my next story
Sure.
is a longer story, but it's about the community of not just your community, but how your community fits into the larger community, and then that fits into an even larger community, and that's the community of the North. And
Nice.
um, as a person from the wet coast, it's what Mrs. Jack used to call me. There's that silly girl from the wet coast. Not understanding the weather and the preciseness of how the community works was a challenge for me.
Mm,
So I've always been connected to the computer. I've been involved with the computer since 1984. Always had a computer in my life. No computer downriver, no phone, no form of communication back then except for the SBX, which is a sidewinder radio that worked. Um, you could talk about how the mechanics of it work. As I understood it, it's a big wave of,
I don't know. It
yeah.
bounces. It was
Anyway,
the SPX worked better when it was cloudy. That's all I know.
yeah,
Because
that's it's a
the bounce,
bouncing
it's too
off of
simple. Yeah,
the atmosphere and the clouds that
yeah.
make it work. It's more powerful than
It's like a
a
trucker radio kind of thing.
it's like a CB radio, but more powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happens is the whole of the North can
Hmm.
hear everything that goes on, and there's
Yeah,
rules
in the
about
call, during the call.
going on the phone or on the
I
SBX.
missed
So
that actually. I missed that.
isn't that funny, eh? Like so, I would it would be like 6 o'clock at night, and I would check in with the people downriver, whether the kids were there or I was there, or um, whoever was at the house would call downriver. The people downriver would be available to see what needed to be done and what had to be done. So all of the children, 6 kids under 6, are with me at the house. Joan and Brian and uh, Rose and I think um,
Maybe
uh,
Mary Lou.
yeah, Mary Lou. There was like 4 people downriver with you,
Oh, okay.
right?
Gloria. Gloria.
Probably
Yeah,
yes,
Gloria. Yeah,
because
Gloria. Yeah.
I was all by myself with the 6 kids,
Yeah.
and you got on the SPX and you said, "I'm sending you a moose, and you'll have moose for the kids, and it'll be really good." Well, that previous fall, this is in the spring. The previous fall, I had learned how to cut moose with the rest of the community, so long as I had people helping me. So go down to the float plane the next day at the lake, and I get this suspicious package that's very like It's like 6.5 feet long and it's 3 feet wide, all wrapped in plastic and
Hind
paper.
quarter, probably.
Yep, was a hind quarter. And I get it home and I unwrap it and I go, oh my gosh, it's on the bone. Now what do I do? Right? Like, what am I going to do? So I get on the SPX that day and I go, Joan, what the bleep am I supposed to do with this? It's on the bone. I have no way to, like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not very good at being a butcher. Like, my sons aren't here. They're the cooks and chefs in my life. They know what to do with this. I don't. What am I going to do with this? And all you would say to me was, don't swear on the SPX. This conversation went on for like 5 or 10 minutes about don't swear on the SPX. But what am I supposed to do? There's no one here. You have them all with you downriver. No one up here is going to interact with me. Like, even I think you even had Uncle Willie with you down there. Like, you had all the adults in the community with you, and here I am with these 6 children with these big eyes looking, oh boy, we're having moose meat for dinner. And I'm like, it's not fitting in the freezer and it's not fitting in the oven. What on earth am I supposed to do with this? Well, eventually, of course, I figured it out and got the saw out and cooked it up, and we had moose meat. And about 3 months later, I'm in the Overweighty at that time, because that's all there was in the store in Whitehorse, doing the supply run and talking to the lady at the cashier. And this guy looks at me and he goes, I recognize that voice. Did you ever learn not to swear on the SPX? I go, oh my God. And I turned pink, like from my toes to the top of my head, going, what are you talking about? And he says, we all talk about that. That is one of our best stories. I'm from Watson Lake, and there were people I spoke to in Whitehorse and Dees Lake and Atlin, and we all talk about the silly white girl wet from the wet coast who didn't learn how to not swear on the SPX. Did she ever figure out what to do with that big piece of moose?
That's hilarious.
And
Yeah.
so it is like it's a community, right? Like, and the community belongs inside of a community, and that is inside of another community, and that's inside a family, and that's another community, and so
Yeah.
we're all connected.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have to tell an SPX, one of my it might be the best so for those of you listening, like the SPX, there would be general sked times that everyone used unless you created another one. Like Lynn and I had a 6 p.m. So if you're going to do the 8 o'clock, they were 8 in the morning, 8 at night. So at that sked time, though, you had to kind of wait till one conversation was over, then jump in and do your call, And so it's literally like whatever your call sign was, you would call out. So especially 8 p.m. was like entertainment. It was like TV time after supper. And so we would all sit around for the 8 p.m. call time to listen to the conversations because, like you said, Watson Lake, Telegraph Creek, all over the boom, depending on the signal, the boom, you could hear calls from Northwest Territories sometimes, Yukon, like all over the camps, people talking to each other. And so this one time, Brian had to call because we got a moose, and then it was a young bull, and it had 3 horns. It had 3 horns. It had 2 on one side, and Brian was so excited that it had 3 horns. I was like, we all thought it was different and all that, but he was pretty excited. And I was like, why are you so excited? He said, because I'm going to eat that. There's a part right from the head where the horn is on the head, about maybe 3 inches or 4 inches up. That's basically like cartilage. And so what he did was singe the fuzz off of the horns on the outside fire here, and then scraped it with his knife, and then roasted that long time. And then he fed me some of that stuff and it didn't taste like it. Tastes like maybe like tofu, like tasteless. Put a little bit of salt on it, but God knows what nutrients were in there. I mean, that's the part I feel so sad about, is that our people, Indigenous people, are dying because we're not eating the food the land provides us, and we're not even eating it in a way that is best for us in terms of our health. But that's a whole other podcast, around what nutrition was he getting, from those horns, what were we getting? Anyways, so then at that time, another TRTFN clan member was down on the lower Taku, and that person had just finished their natural resource development certificate or whatever at college. So he was down there doing sampling and other stuff and whatever. And so Brian, I said to him, you better call so and so and tell them about that three-horned moose, because that's like, I don't know, genetically or biology significant, or however the right word is. And so he called him, and oh, he was so excited. He said, that's a sign of something. Like, that's like, we got to send that, out for testing, and we got to see what's going on and whatever. And then we also ate the moose. And the guy, the clinic guy down below, was all excited. He said, yeah, we got to send it out for testing and get it to us and whatever. Then Brian was like quiet. He didn't say anything. I was like, tell him. And he's like, no. I said, tell him. And it's like silence on the radio. And I think about people who were listening. The guy said, well, what did you do with the horns? And then Brian said, I ate them. And then the next, the guy from down below said, okay, Brian, the next time you find anything scientifically significant, don't eat it. Oh my God. I laughed so hard. I was like, because Brian was so shy. He just, the normal thing to do. It's like more goodies. Yeah. I'm just looking at the time has flown by again. I like to try to, there's going to be quite a bit of editing out of the beginning again, but that's okay. I've got another meeting to jump to, but I'd like to give you an opportunity, and we'll visit again. Anytime. I love that you offered to be standby, because I'm just learning, and there's technical difficulties and things that we don't know about. So I just love
Happy
you.
to do it. Always happy to help you, Joan. I
So
really believe in what you're doing. I believe in the connection between the land and people that is really, really essential. That work that you're doing is so essential, and not and I know that it's essential for where you are, but not just where you are, but for the whole world. And
amen.
that's how it segues into my life now, in terms of trying to save the last free place in America, because that land and the people that live there on that land, it's so contentious and so broken right now with the with um the I don't know how to say it other than to just blurt it out. It's the addiction, the methamphetamine, the drinking, and the abuse of people that happens in that paradigm of addiction and drug use is so destructive, and it will kill the last free place in America. As sure as I'm speaking to you, so me talking to you about this, Joan, makes it real for me and gives me hope that
Mm.
we can do this. Like I go up and down about this all the time, and you give me hope to know that our connection with the land is where this will succeed and where the
Amen.
place will succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's where we can be in closest contact with our ancestors as well, I believe.
Yes.
We
Yes.
feel the presence of our ancestors here so strongly, and remember their teachings. They come back to us. So for my closing, I decided that Brave Indigenous Conversations was all about the earrings. So this morning,
I love those.
I'm wearing a pair of original earrings by Amelia Carlick. And she was going to try and do the online thing and all that. And she said, I can't, I don't want to do, she's so shy, humble. She said, I can't do it, Mom. But so if you want a pair of Amelia Carlick originals, you have to go to the Trading Post in Atlan, because they're hanging there. And so what's so cool about Amelia's earrings is their art, because
Yeah.
she creates their, like, her beading, like some beading more like, let's say, Lakota, Dakota, Nakota beading, or Cree beading, or Ojibwe beading, even Métis beading. The value of the beading is in the one value is in the, like, how do you say that? Like, it's so structured, like the symmetry, like that there's nothing out of place and everything's perfectly. Even my beading is like so beautiful, like it's so structured. And her beading, each, like these two earrings, if you looked at them, they look the same, but if you really looked at them, they're not the same. And so I have another pair of hers, but I'm not going to show them right now because I'd show them on another one. But every pair of her earrings are original, completely original, and different. Like they match, but because she's creating art, you know, and it's an expression of who she is, and this is a part of her recovery, you know, and I'm just super proud of her. And she came to our home when she was 3, and I think she's, I don't know, 30 something now anyway, but she still calls me mom. And somebody said, how do you know if someone's your, you know, if a foster child is your child or really your child? Or what? I said, if they cost me money, they're my kid. So it doesn't cost me much money, but I pay her landline because she's such a, what do you call those, like an introvert, that if I didn't pay for a landline at her house, she wouldn't have a phone. She wouldn't care. She wouldn't care to talk to anybody. She's just happy with her beating in her space, eh? But I want to talk to her, so I pay for the phone. And so I just wanted to lift my hands up to my daughter Amelia this morning. She's so amazing.
She is.
And thank you again, Lynn, for jumping on and rescuing me. And we'll get this technology, and there'll always be issues. So I love you.
Absolutely.
I
And
love you.
anytime. I love you. I love your family. I love that you're down there. And I love what you're doing, Joan.
Oh, miigwech. You made me cry.
Thank you.